Hello, this is a tutorial on the instructional strategy lecture. Lecture is a valuable part of a teacher's instructional toolbox, and although the lecture can be valuable in the face-to-face classroom, a lecture that is either an audio capture or a video capture that the students can access prior to class can replay multiple times. It adds a nice human element to online and hybrid classes. A lecture is used when the instructor is pushing content by presenting the course concepts to the students. At the front end of a classroom discussion, having students engage with the content, whether it's through reading or other methods to access content, like a lecture or a lecturette. Being able to push content, to introduce a topic, maybe create a warm-up exercise before students get to class, to get them to start thinking about the content, maybe forming some opinions that they could come to class and discuss and be able to defend. A lecture should not repeat directly the content in the book, and it should allow students to begin making connections between the content and the real world, maybe even challenge the imagination. The advantage of an audio file is that the instructor is offering a delivery option that might help different kind of learning styles, but it's also the ability for the students to have 365, 24/7 access to content for the class whenever and wherever they would like to have it. So in this particular case, we're looking at free software. It's called Audacity. Here's the site. It's open source, it's free. It works on a Mac, a Windows machine, and a Linux machine. There is the website to go and get the software and download it. The only other thing that you're going to need is a good source or tool to record, so a good mic. A headset is actually a real good idea, especially if you're going to be doing this on a laptop, because often the microphone on a laptop is located internally very close to where the internal fan for cooling the laptop is located. So you get a lot of that fan noise, which sounds like white noise in the background, and it comes out in your recordings. So it's something that you're going to want to think about, is what kind of tools are you going to use. Good places for putting the lecture, obviously, is prior to class. A face-to-face faculty is going to do some lecture in person in the classroom, but it does not mean that you cannot have a little pre-work to get them to start thinking about something, or maybe some instructions as you head them into their reading while they're at home. So this is Audacity. And so basically the areas in a very simple way of recording an audio file or a podcast is to look at just these two areas here. This is your control bar, and you've probably, if you've watched any DVDs or that type of thing on any type of a computer or a DVD Blu-ray player, you probably are familiar with these. This circle is the record button. We'll be going there in a moment. The triangle is the play button. This becomes the pause button. We have stop, and then we have fast forward and rewind. This area right here is the toolbar. The only thing we're really going to be focusing on is what looks like this capital I here. This is the selection tool. And once we start recording, you will have a timeline that will show up in this particular spot. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and record. Now you need to think a little bit about what you want to say going in. Might even storyboard it out or have some bullet points or whatever, just so you kind of have an idea of where you want to go with this, and you want to have some direction. The other recommendation that I would have is to keep it reasonably short. You don't really want to do 30 minutes in a podcast or an audio recording. Something like 5 minutes is actually a good timeline for pushing out some specific content. If you need more than that, it might be better to chunk it or break it up into smaller pieces and record 2 or 3 of these and have them as separate files, because audio files can get quite large, and we'll talk about that a little later in the presentation. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit this button. Once you hit this record button, a timeline will appear. You will see your audio track as you progress, and so we will do that now. Hello, this is a test for an audio podcast. I am just speaking into the microphone. I try to speak in a slow, clear tone so that the microphone will pick everything up. I do not want to have distracting noises in the background. I do not want to be shuffling papers or really touching too much of anything else other than my mouse and things related to the recording aspect, because that will get picked up on the microphone. So at this particular point, I'm about 30 seconds, a little over 30 seconds into this thing. I think you get the idea of what the recording aspect looks like and your audio track. You also, to get more sophisticated, you have the ability to add some intro and some closing music. We're not going to go into any of those types of details here. This is just something for you to be more familiar with. Although we are using Audacity, again, this is chosen because it's a free software and it works on all of the different platforms. Those of you that have a Mac, you might be familiar with GarageBand. You could also do the same thing on GarageBand. There's other different types of audio capture applications and software packages out there. We're using this one because it happens to be free and works on all the platforms, but you can use whichever one you could be comfortable with. At this point, I'm done. All I need to do is go up and hit on this square, which would stop the recording. Okay, so as you've seen, the recording is stopped. I have a toolbar a scroll bar along the bottom, and I can just click and drag that and move that to any spot that I want. I'm going to go all the way here to the front, so I've moved it all the way over to the left. So anytime you see a lot of blank space like this is a pause. Now you have the ability to click this triangle and start playing back. Okay, so you see there was a little bit of a pause there, and then I kind of smacked my lips and went into the actual presentation. So what you can do, if there's ever an area where the pause is too long, it often is at the beginning and sometimes at the end of a presentation, you can actually do some editing to that. And I'm just going to show you very basic minor editing, which is to pull out various components. There also could be a situation where you maybe tripped over your tongue, or you said something incorrectly, or maybe you said something twice and you only need it in the presentation one time. So I'm going to show you how to do some basic editing and remove something that you don't want. So at this particular point, you want to click on what looks like an I character here, or an I-beam. And what this particular tool is, it's the selection tool. You can see that popping up when I hover my mouse over that. Now when I click on this tool, it's going to allow me to take and highlight a particular area, so I can get whatever piece I want. Let's say I'm going to take this first second off, have a little bit of pause, I think will be okay. So I'm going to go up into the edit area and I'm going to just hit cut. You can also do the shortcut for cut if you'd like to do that. And I can do this in a number of different places. I can move my slider and see where I might have various pauses. I don't have too many in here, but there might be some stuff that you want to remove. You can actually also do a playback. You can actually click in any spot on this timeline and then hit play. And so maybe there's another spot right in this area here. Let's see, I got it. Oh, not that one. Oh, you're being funny on me, aren't you? Well, I'm just going to leave that one. Doesn't overall look too bad. I don't have too many pauses there, and I could listen to the whole thing to determine whether or not I wanted to, I said something that I didn't want to say that I wanted to remove, and again, I showed you how to remove it. You're basically hitting select, which is this I right here. You're finding that particular area with your cursor. You're going up into edit and you're going to hit cut. Now when you're all done, everything is exactly the way you want it. All we have to do now is we have to export the file. So if you go in Audacity up to the File drop-down menu and pull that down, one of your choices about halfway down is called Export. So once I click on Export, I get this drop-down menu. I'm going to give it a name, so maybe I use the class and the week, or maybe I use the topic. I can have a separate folder that maybe I create to place all of my audio files in, or maybe I'm going to put it in the folder related to this particular class. So anything you want to do with that. Also, the most important thing is the format, and depending on the type of machine you're working on and what you may have recorded in the past, this could be a number of different choices. It is important that we compress our file because the file size would get real large. I recorded something in a different file format. It was actually the it was a WAV file. I recorded about 30 seconds or so of a WAV file, and it was about 1.6 megabytes. Once I saved it to an MP3, which is what I'm going to recommend, in my case that's what I use a lot, so it defaults to MP3, but you will have to select that from the drop-down list. The MP3 file of that 30 seconds was about 120 kilobytes, so it was less than 10% of the size. So again, think about the file size if you're going to be doing a 5-minute podcast. That's very important to pay attention to. So all you're going to do is you're going to change it to MP3, and you do that again in this spot. AAC I've done as well too. That can make some large files. MP3 is kind of a universal audio file, can be opened up on a lot of different players, can be opened up on a laptop, a desktop, an iPod, or an MP3 player. Tablets can open them up as well, so it's just a good overall choice for that. So all I need to do now, I have it set up the way I want, is just hit save. Now you don't have to do this, but sometimes it's a good idea to fill in some of these values. 2014, I could put my name in here, and maybe the track title. Whatever I want to do. I can add some additional tags down here, and when I'm all done, I just say OK. So I've now saved this. It's exporting the entire file, and you can see it's 128 kilobits per second is the speed. I could also edit that down. The lowest I'd want to go is down to 96 kilobits per second. Beyond that, I think the audio quality suffers, but I don't usually like anything other than the 96 or the 128. So at this particular point, I actually have a file of this presentation, and I can upload it to Blackboard, just as I would upload any file. I can send it to students in an email, so whatever I want to do with it, because it is a file, I have that ability to now do. So again, this is using the instructional strategy of lecture to push some content to the students and give them the ability, because it's an audio file, they can replay it, they can listen to it anytime they want, they can listen to them as often as they want. There you go. Thanks.